Imagine a marriage that looks perfect on the surface. You know, decades together, shared dreams. It seems totally unbreakable.
Like a real fairy tale.
But then, picture this hidden desire, something new blooming kind of in the shadows of that long commitment. And it all leads to an ending that's just, well, shocking. Utterly unimaginable.
Yeah.
Today, we're taking a really close look at a story where love twisted into something much more complex and ultimately just deeply tragic.
It really is.
This is our deep dive into the case of Mark, Jennair, and Meredith. It's a story that played out over decades, and it really shows how, I guess, fragile that line can be between commitment and obsession.
And our mission today, really, is to try and understand the psychological journey here, the chain of events that led to such a terrible outcome.
Right.
We want to explore how those maybe seemingly small cracks in a relationship, if they're not dealt with, can just escalate into something devastating. So as we unpack this, think about what stands out to you. What parts of this make you pause? Because it's not just about what happened, but maybe why it hit so hard.
Okay, let's peel back the layers. Let's go right back to the beginning. We're talking 1986.
Right.
Mark is 18, Jennair's just 16. And they meet kind of randomly at a Taco Bell where Jennair worked.
Taco Bell.
Yeah. And Mark said from that very first moment, he was just completely captivated. Her smile, her blue eyes, especially in her uniform, apparently.
Wow. Instant connection.
It seemed like it, even though they were really different people.
Yeah.
Jennair, she was described as bold, really confident, a go-getter. She even danced in shows.
Okay, quite outgoing then.
Totally. Whereas Mark, he was much more reserved, quieter, maybe a bit more introspective.
And it's funny how those differences often attract, isn't it? Despite being opposites in some ways, that connection grew.
It did. It took a few years, but 4 years after that Taco Bell meeting, they started dating officially.
And Mark really saw her as his dream woman. That's how he put it.
Yeah, he said she was brave, had this positive outlook, made every date feel like, an adventure.
So the relationship really took off from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone around them apparently saw it coming. They got married in October 1993.
Okay.
And after getting married, they talked about kids, but ultimately decided against it. They wanted to focus just on each other.
Right, pouring everything into the marriage itself.
Exactly. They got 2 golden retrievers, adorable ones apparently, dreamt about traveling the world together, spending basically all their time together. It sounds pretty idyllic, doesn't it?
On the surface, yeah, totally. And those early years of marriage seemed, well, pretty good by most accounts.
But like any couple.
Oh yeah, they had disagreements. Minor stuff. Mark mentioned Jennair could be bossy, like making the decisions, big purchases, house renovations.
And Mark usually went along with it.
Yeah, he often deferred to her. It was just kind of their dynamic. Seen as typical give and take back then, nobody thought it would, threaten the whole thing.
But even the most idyllic pictures can start to show wear. And for Mark and Jennair, those cracks really started appearing around 2011.
The economic downturn. That hit a lot of people hard.
It did. They were living in South Carolina, and the financial pressure started mounting.
And that pressure hit Jennair directly. She lost her job at Serco, this tools manufacturing company.
Right, which shifted the financial burden onto Mark.
Understandably. And yeah, reports say the arguments definitely increased because of that stress. But, they seem to get through it. They overcame that crisis, which shows some resilience, right?
It does. But the real turning point, the moment everything shifted, that came in 2017.
Okay.
Mark gets this huge career opportunity, a job offer as creative director for a company in Delaware.
A big move.
A very big move. And it was there, during his job interview, that he first met Meredith Chapman. She was 32, this rising star in real estate, 15 years younger than him.
15 years. Wow. And Mark's first impression, what did he think?
Well, he apparently felt a bit awkward at first, interviewing with someone so much younger.
Sure.
But he quickly saw she was incredibly professional, really mature for her age, just highly impressive overall.
Okay. She had a reputation already.
Yeah, she'd even been named one of those top successful people under 40.
Right. So this initial meeting, purely professional admiration, you could say.
Exactly. Innocent on the surface.
But it laid the groundwork, didn't it, for everything that followed. It shows how these small interactions can just trigger a whole cascade of events.
So Mark takes the job, moves to Delaware, and Jennair, back in South Carolina, she's making plans to join him. Renting out their house.
Showing her commitment is still there, full steam ahead with the move.
Absolutely. But here's where it gets really interesting. Revealing Mark's internal state.
Okay.
While he's in Delaware, he actually gets an even better job offer from a company in Colorado he called his dream company.
Wow. So a chance to move again somewhere potentially even better for him.
Right, but he turned it down. He chose to stay in Delaware. Well, the stated reason, or maybe the underlying one, was to continue working with Meredith.
Ah, so that raises the question, doesn't it? Was the attraction already there beyond just professional respect, even if nothing happened yet?
It certainly makes you wonder. His actions kind of suggest his priorities were already shifting, maybe subconsciously.
And it seems like that professional relationship didn't stay purely professional for long.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Mark admitted that initial admiration quickly turned into something, well, deeper, romantic feelings. He said he fell in love very quickly.
And how did that actually happen, the shift?
It seems the first real intimate moment was after a dinner. Not work-related, just relaxed. And Mark opened up to Meredith, told her he was married, told her about the problems.
Okay, vulnerability.
Yeah, and the evening ended with a kiss.
Wow. And Meredith, what was her situation?
Interestingly, she was also married to a guy named Luke for about 3 years. But she told Mark her marriage was basically just for appearances, that she didn't love Luke anymore.
So she was unhappy too.
And she specifically told Mark she wanted a serious relationship with him. She wasn't just looking for a fling.
That's quite direct. So mutual interest, clearly stated.
And for Mark, this was huge. He felt, and he said this later, that Jenner never appreciated him. But Meredith, she genuinely praised him, made him feel proud.
Filling an emotional need, maybe, that he felt was missing.
Seems like it played a big part in his feelings deepening so fast.
And within just a month of that first dinner, that kiss.
They both confessed they were in love, and they started a secret relationship, promising each other they'd hide it from Jenner and Luke.
Setting up that whole double life, which is always a dangerous game.
So then Jenner finally arrives in Delaware, ready to start this new chapter with Mark.
And she picks up on things pretty quickly.
Almost immediately. She noticed he was distant, something was off. Her suspicion kicked in fast.
Did she suspect Meredith specifically?
She did. She asked Mark point blank if he was having an affair, and she even named Meredith, because Mark had mentioned her before, with admiration.
And Mark?
He denied it. Completely denied everything.
But Jenner wasn't buying it.
Not at all. His denial just seemed to fuel her suspicion, and she started this, well, relentless effort to find the truth.
This is where her actions become quite extreme, right?
Extremely.
Yeah.
It's actually remarkable the lengths she went to. She bought listening devices.
Plural.
Yes.
Okay.
And attached them meticulously to all of Mark's work suits.
Wow. Okay. That's intense.
And she didn't stop there. She also hired a private investigation firm.
A PI.
Yep. And the PI confirmed it. Mark and Meredith were having an affair.
So she had proof. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. That level of planning.
Yeah.
It's more than just anger, isn't it? It feels like this deep fixation starting to take hold.
And it all blew up on Valentine's Day, 2018.
Oh, Valentine's Day. Of course.
Jenner confronted Mark, laid it all out,
Yeah.
told him she knew everything.
His reaction, guilt, remorse.
Anger, actually. His first reaction was anger about being spied on.
Not about the affair itself.
Not initially. In that moment of anger, he just openly admitted it. Admitted he loved Meredith.
Oh, man. You can only imagine the devastation for Jenner after, 24, 25 years together?
Exactly. The betrayal must have felt immense. Mark did, perhaps feeling some guilt then, agree to marriage counseling.
A glimmer of hope?
Maybe. But during their very first counseling session,
Don't tell me.
he found another listening device on him.
Oh, Jenner. Why?
He was furious, saw it as proof she still didn't trust him, that maybe she never would. He ended the counseling right then, after just 3 sessions.
That feels like a real point of no return. Any remaining trust just shattered.
And Jenner, she didn't back down. Her focus shifted.
What does she do next?
She went on the offensive, you could say. First, she contacted Luke, Meredith's husband. Told him everything.
Which led to their divorce.
It did. Luke and Meredith divorced. Then Jenner reported Mark and Meredith to their employer, the university.
And that cost them their jobs.
Both of them lost their jobs because of her report.
Wow. So she really went after them, professionally, personally.
But even that didn't stop Mark and Meredith. They found new jobs pretty quickly.
Oh, really? Where?
Meredith got a really good position, assistant vice president at Villanova University. And they moved together, Mark and Meredith, to this affluent area in Pennsylvania called Mainline.
So they weathered that storm together, while Jenner...
Jenner was left completely alone in Delaware, Remember, she'd already sold their house in South Carolina. Her marriage was over. Her life totally uprooted, isolated.
That sounds incredibly bleak. How was she coping?
Not well at all. Her emotional state just plummeted. At one point, she even threatened to jump from a window.
Oh my God. That's serious.
Mark realized how bad it was. He did try to help her get into therapy.
Did it help?
For a little while, it seemed like maybe she was starting to accept the divorce. She even asked Mark to spend one final week with her.
A final week? Doing what?
She had a list of activities, things they used to do maybe. It felt like she was clinging to some last flicker of hope, perhaps.
Trying to recapture something?
Possibly.
Yeah.
And Mark agreed. He said he felt it was his last duty to her.
That's a really sad picture. That final week. You can sense the desperation, maybe, even as she's trying to seem accepting. The internal turmoil must have been immense.
It really must have been. Which brings us to April 23, 2018.
Okay. The day it all happened.
Yeah. It was actually the same day Meredith had posted this really positive, triumphant photo on Instagram about her new job at Villanova, her fresh start.
Right. Looking forward.
That evening, Mark was at a restaurant waiting for Jennair. They were supposed to have dinner.
The dinner after that final week.
Seems so. And as he's waiting, he starts getting these texts from Jennair. They get progressively more chilling.
What did they say?
First, something kind of normal. I took a wrong turn, I'll be late. Okay, fine.
Right. Annoying, but okay.
But then, 10 minutes later, I'm not coming, you go home. Bit strange, maybe.
Yeah.
And then, immediately after that, the message that changed everything. It was a photo.
A photo of what?
A photo of Meredith's trash can. And inside, clearly visible, was Mark's used condom.
Oh no. She'd gone through her trash.
Apparently. The implication, sending that photo, it was just brutal. The ultimate proof of betrayal, thrown right in his face.
Deliberate. Calculated. Horrifying.
And then came the final messages from Jennair to Mark. You ruined my life. Then, I wish you find happiness. And finally, just goodbye, Mark.
Chilling. Absolutely chilling.
Mark obviously was now terrified. Not for himself, but for Meredith. He rushed over to her house.
And what did he find?
The scene was just horrific. He found Meredith first. Face down in her kitchen, unresponsive. There was blood on her leg.
Oh my God.
Negroes came running to help, but it was too late. They confirmed Meredith was dead. And as Mark is reeling from this, he sees something else.
What?
Another body.
Yeah.
In the living room, it was Jennair, dressed all in black. Lifeless.
Both of them. Oh God.
Police arrive. It's a double fatality. Jennair, 47 years old. Meredith, just 33. Both gone.
And Mark is right there. He must have been the immediate suspect.
He absolutely was initially. Given the context, you can see why. But one crucial piece of evidence turned things around quickly.
What was that?
Underneath Jennair's body, they found a gun. It had been fired twice.
Ah, okay.
So the pieces started falling into place for the police. They had Mark's alibi, the restaurant receipt, proving where he was.
Right, he was waiting for her.
Exactly. And they had Jennair's texts. Those final messages, and especially that photo of the condom, it all pointed away from Mark.
Towards Jennair.
Towards a new, horrifying theory. Jennair broke into Meredith's house, waited for her, killed her, and then killed herself.
Murder-suicide. Just devastating.
The public reaction, as you can imagine, was huge. Intense. People were blaming everyone. Mark, Jennair, Meredith. It got very heated.
I bet. And the police investigation, did it confirm their theory?
It did. They uncovered a lot more detail that backed it up. Neighbors reported seeing Jennair scoping out Meredith's house before, wearing a disguise, black clothes, wig, dark glasses.
Casing the place, planning.
Exactly. Police found she'd rented a black Cadillac a week earlier, drove it to Meredith's neighborhood that day, even bought gas nearby, suggesting maybe she initially planned to get away.
Escape after the murder.
That's what the earplugs and gloves found on the rental car suggested. A planned killing, then escape.
But something changed.
The theory is, yes, she shot Meredith when she got home. But finding that condom in the trash, that seems to have been the absolute breaking point.
The final betrayal, pushing her over the edge.
It likely shifted her plan. Overwhelmed by grief, despair, that raw sense of betrayal, maybe she just couldn't face living anymore. It turned from murder-escape to murder-suicide. The level of planning combined with that sudden shift, it really speaks to the psychological agony she must have been in. And the full extent of her surveillance, her obsession, it was even more shocking than initially thought.
Oh, so?
Her phone reveals so much. She's using a neighbor app, posting these desperate messages. First about moving for her husband's job, then looking for divorce lawyers, counselors. Seeing her husband was leaving her. how isolated she felt.
Crying out for help, essentially. Did anyone respond?
Tragically, it seems no one really did, or not in a way that helped. And the documentation. She kept diaries. 12 diaries.
Yeah.
Filled with transcriptions of Mark and Meredith's conversations from those listening devices.
12. Wow.
She'd opened separate bank accounts just to buy spying gear, lock-picking tools, hacking software, even a DNA testing kit.
A DNA kit to prove?
To prove infidelity, presumably.
Yeah.
And GPS trackers. One for Mark's car, she named it Wife Detector.
Oh my God.
And one for Meredith's car, named M-Cord.
It's like something out of a movie, but tragically real. The level of obsession is just staggering.
And the gun. She bought the murder weapon 5 weeks before.
5 weeks. So this wasn't impulsive. This was planned for a long time.
It appears so. She even went to a shooting range that very morning, practicing. It paints this chilling picture of calculated planning driven by deep, deep pain.
What's really unsettling, though, is what her psychiatrist said.
Right. He saw her regularly.
And he stated later that she showed absolutely no signs of being homicidal or suicidal. She even told him she was planning to move on with her life.
So she was hiding it all.
It seems so. Which just raises that awful question. How much pain, how much utter despair can someone hide behind a normal facade before it just erupts?
Yeah.
The gap between what people show the world and what they're feeling inside can be just tragically vast.
In her suicide note to Mark, she did express gratitude, for the years they had as husband and wife. But she also very strongly asserted that she deserved more justice, more respect than she felt she got in the end.
A final statement of her pain and perceived injustice. And Mark, how has he dealt with the aftermath? It must be incredibly difficult.
Profoundly so. He's expressed immense guilt, apologized to both Meredith's and Jen Eyre's families. He even said he feels he should have been the one to die.
Survivor's guilt, perhaps, mixed with everything else.
Could be.
Nah.
He sold everything they owned, moved completely across the country to San Diego, works for a marketing company now, Amperage.
Trying to start over as much as possible.
Yeah. He's also published a book called Worry Power and keeps a blog. He advocates for people to check in on their loved ones, but also on the people they might have hurt.
Using his experience to try and prevent something similar.
Perhaps. Might be his way of processing the trauma, but it's complex. He's also admitted he cannot forgive Jen Eyre for killing Meredith.
Wow. That adds another layer of deep, unresolved grief and anger, doesn't it?
It really does. This whole deep dive, this story, it's just such a profound tragedy from every angle.
Absolutely.
It just starkly shows how a marriage breaking down, fueled by infidelity, can spiral into this intense, consuming obsession, leading to just the most devastating end for everyone.
And this story, even though the outcome is extreme, it really forces us to think about the hidden struggles people carry, often silently.
Right.
It's a stark reminder, isn't it? Especially now when we think we know so much about each other through social media and everything, how little we might actually see of someone's internal battle. Yeah. It raises a really important, maybe uncomfortable question. What responsibility do we have, if any, to really see and acknowledge the pain in those around us, even those closest to us, before it maybe festers and becomes unbearable, before it leads to something catastrophic?
That's a really powerful thought to end on, something for all of us to definitely consider. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into such a difficult and complex story. We hope you'll take some time to reflect on it.